We usually associate spiritual presences with feelings of terror, but one couple lived for years with the happy sound of playing children. The strange aspect of this haunting was that the two little companions had lived more than half a century apart. In the 1980s, Edna Rugless and her husband Bill, a retired engineer, moved to a 300-year-old farmhouse in the tiny village of Farway in Devon in the west of England. They started to notice strange occurrences coming from one of the bedrooms, virtually from the day they moved in. The sound of running footsteps could be heard in the upper room, even though no one was up there. An eerie rhythmic creaking sound also sounded from above, as though someone was riding an old-fashioned rocking horse. Strangely, the couple soon became aware that both their cat and dog refused to go anywhere near the bedroom in question. The Ruglesses became quite disturbed by the ruckus seemingly created by invisible presences. The couple decided to further investigate their haunting theory when a friend of theirs who happened to be interested in psychic phenomena came to stay while on holiday. Mr. and Mrs. Rugless deliberately didn't mention their eerie house guests as they wanted to see if she noticed anything strange. They asked their friend if she could feel anything unusual in the house atmosphere, and sure enough, the friend soon claimed that she had picked up on some strong energies. She had detected the presence of two young girls, aged about 4 or 5, who were active in the house and said that they had names that began with an E or an A. The visitor also said that the girls were not sisters, but friends, as each was dressed quite differently. In fact, one wore expensive finery, while the other was more poorly dressed. Reassuringly, she also confirmed what the couple believed themselves, that the atmosphere that surrounded the spirits was a happy one. Naturally, Mr. and Mrs. Rugless became curious about their invisible charges and decided to undertake some research. After digging about in local history, Mrs. Rugless approached the local vicar, who checked his parish records. They discovered that 2 girls had passed away in the house, and both were only 4 years old. The really startling revelation was that they hadn't lived there during the same era. The first child had died in 1844 and was named Elizabeth. The second had died in 1902 and was named Anne. The girls were actually blood relatives, as their family had occupied the house over several generations. The intriguing aspect was that the 2 girls had never known each other during their lifetimes, living 60 years apart, but had found each other's company as ghosts. The 2 little girls often kicked up quite a din, but far from being alarmed by their often boisterous behaviour, the Ruglesses lived harmoniously with them in the house for many years. They reportedly told people that they considered themselves lucky to have such happy little spirits about the place. Usually they were not bothered by the noise the girls made, but occasionally Mrs. Rugless shouted out a request for them to play more quietly, which they always obeyed. One afternoon, the noise level became unbearable. Mrs. Rugless heard the children running out of the bedroom and then start jumping around on the landing. The crashing about made her react the way many of us would. She went into the hall and screamed up at them to stop. Amazingly, the ethereal kids immediately quietened down. The local vicar commented to the Ruglesses that Elizabeth and Anne must have been so happy within the house that their spirits were reluctant to leave. Because of the nearly 60-year gap between their deaths, it did appear odd that they should be playmates. However, he added, we mortals have our own limited concept of time, and the gap obviously did not prevent the 2 girls from having their joy-filled friendship. The old farmhouse is now a retirement home, and it is not known whether the unusual hauntings continue. The Ruglesses lived for years side by side with the very interactive ghosts who seemed to have found each other in some parallel plane of existence, then engaged in play that had obviously never taken place in their vastly separated lifetimes.